picks and bans now. So we'll watch that go down and see what that bodes for the next match. First, the bans. These are global bans. Neither team can play this hero when the ban comes out. This is a best 2 out of 3. It is double elimination, so this isn't the last chance for either of these teams. And Ardent Axiom starts with a dual ban.
A dual ban is pretty good because GankStars Vega is known for running dual comps. They'll either put a dual in lane or they'll play one in the jungle. So these guys are pretty much guessing ahead of time what Vega's comfort picks are and trying to prevent them from doing that.
All right. We'll wait to see GankStars Vega's ban come in. They're going to think about this. Now that Jewel is off the board, maybe they were thinking one comp. And once again, they take away that Celeste.
The same bands.
Jaja Jack Celeste.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen Jaja Jack, he's just a phenomenal, phenomenal Celeste player. So you can see why that would happen. And we'll see Ardent Axiom as the first pick. They go with the Adagio.
It's very similar to the last game, pretty much.
This is exactly
it's
like
the opposite right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We'll have to see if that works out for them. Certainly giving GankStars something to think about.
I'm assuming that there's going to be a Fortress this game since it's left open and GankStars Vega is allowed to pick 2 in a row. But again, they go with Ardent, so it might be a replicate. I'm not too sure anymore.
That would be...
You see a Koshka coming out of GankStars, so what they're going to do this game is they're going to try and put that early pressure in the jungle. And Ardent's going to have to be able to play around this, or they're going to have to pick into a comp that's able to counter this.
Okay, so do you know yet if this is going to be a Fuji lane or an old school lane? We have to wait for the third pick here.
We'll probably have to wait for the third pick. But I would love to see old school playing in lane for a match.
I would too. Such a great player. You were talking about his mechanics before. Yeah. Just an absolute standout. It is a Rona Catherine to round out Ardent Axiom.
And we're going to have probably a Scarf.
Nope. No, it's a Glaive.
Melee, 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 melee for days.
Melee for days, only Adagio. Mixing that up. So Glaive, Koshka, Ardent comp. What does that tell you that GankStars is going to do?
Very early game invades. We're going to see the laner rotate down, and they're just going to keep trying to shove over so that this game they're going to try and prevent Rona from taking too much farm. Because if she is able to transition early to mid game really well, getting those items, getting that farm, that CS, late game she's a threat. And because they have a Catherine on their side to peel, GankStars Vega is going to have to try and finish this game pretty early.
Now we haven't talked about Liberation X yet. That is coming up next.
Right after.
But boy, oh boy, Status Baked made a name for himself in the qualifiers with that Rona getting empowered by the Adagio. Adagio B skill, the Agent of Wrath. So will we be seeing that coming out, hopefully out of Ardent here?
Yeah, definitely, especially with Adagio playing as a carry this one and not as a roamer like last game. Going CP, he's really going to benefit, especially with the Agent of Wrath buff. So Rona's going to have like about a 4-second window to kill someone.
All right, Hafu, any final thoughts before we throw it over?
I think that this will be a game where Koshka early game will be really strong, so I'm excited to see how GankStars utilizes that.
All right, the call has come from Hafu. She has been begging for that aggressive, committed Koshka all day long. Let's see if we see it in this match. We'll throw it over to our casters, Action Jackson and Vedius.
All right, thanks Playoff Beard and the other analysts. This is going to be a very interesting game, I feel, Vedius. Lots of early game potential action this time, unlike last time, where we just didn't see anything in the early game.
Yeah, last game I was expecting a little bit more clashing between the two teams, especially seeing as GankStars were telling us how much of an aggressive team they naturally are. This time they have that aggressive composition, and we're going to get to see it in action. So I'm really excited to see, coming into Game 2, whether this new Adagio Rona Catherine composition will work out for them. Because having talked to GankStars, this is actually something that they talked a lot about themselves.
Yeah, it really is. They have talked a great deal about this kind of a comp. We're going to be jumping onto the Halcyon Fold, guys, for Game 2 of this series. Ardent Axiom versus GankStars Vega. Vega leading 1-0 at the moment. They're going to be looking to close this one out and move forward in the tournament. Ardent Axiom, they're fighting for survival right now. It is a double elimination, but this is an important match to win early on.
It definitely is, and right now we do see pretty standard starts coming out from either side. Nothing too exciting. The difference this game compared to the last game, as I've already mentioned, is that GankStars should be looking to put down a little bit more hurt during the early game. You have to recognize that while the Adagio and the Rona combo is insanely strong, they're not going to have that available to them in the early stages of the jungle phase. So this is the opportunity for Old School to dive into the enemy jungle, look to steal as much as possible, look to fight as much as possible, with Rekt playing that Ardent to help him out. So early game, very, very early game should favor GankStars Vega, and this is their opportunity to show off their early game tendencies.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to pull anything off early on here. Right now, nothing too crazy, though. We're seeing a bit of an invade coming through from the side of GankStars Vega. Whalmer trying to do his jungle camp, but he's got to be a little bit careful of the invade. Rekt and Old School trying to make his life difficult right now.
So this is exactly what Old School is going to be looking to do in this Koshka. They're going to try and steal these camps away, but the rotation has come from Aces.
Yeah, he's come down to try and help fight this 3 versus 2 at the moment, but look at how much damage Old School was able to put onto the members of of Ardent Axiom by himself, basically. He was able to actually be very, very threatening. Roner is going to face check that bush, gets the stun onto Old School, but with Jaja Jack so far away, it's hard for them to go for anything too early.
So Old School had actually picked up 2 very early light armors, which meant that Jaja Jack wasn't able to do very much in the 2 versus 2. Even though Ace's persona had rotated down, there was very little that he could also do, meaning that the fight heavily went in favor of Old School, and that's how easy it was for him on that Koshka to get out. It's not that uncommon to see a bit of early armor picked up to try and deal with this Roma, especially when you're going for these very early aggressive plays. So right now, both teams going back, picking up their jungle, and notice the CS difference that is starting to develop between these two laners. Last game we saw Ace's persona being the one that had a ridiculous CS advantage, but now the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm interested to see what's going to happen to Whalmer right now, because Rekt and Old School, they're really trying to turn up the heat and just keep on invading, but it hasn't panned out that well for them yet. I mean, they definitely did some good damage earlier, but it didn't end up in any objectives or minions stolen away. It's going to be hard, I think, for them to keep up this pressure. I'm just legitimately impressed as to how this laning is going so heavily in the favor of Fuji. This isn't really what I was expecting to happen. I would assume that it's largely due to the rotation that came out from Ace's persona earlier on, and then Fuji just took advantage of that. He recognized he could just shove the wave under the turret, force as many of these minions down as quickly as possible to deny a huge amount of experience. So it's such a massive problem for them, and that rotation really has cost Aces during this laning phase. Yeah, the fact that they weren't even able to defend the double backs, they didn't get anything from that rotation. In fact, they probably lost a lot off the back of it. So right now, GankStars Vega doing a good job in the early game. They're actually 1,500 gold up at only about 4 minutes. That's a pretty significant number this early into the game. And it's all off the back of that preemptive response that our Axiom had earlier on.
Yeah, but while Old School and Rekt are actually doing a great job of stealing away as many camps as possible, you have to remember that, again, Ardent Axiom do have a good scaling composition. With this Rona Adagio combo, it's something that you can never really underestimate, and the longer the game goes, it's just going to get stronger and stronger. But as long as Fuji can maintain this sort of lead that he has over Ace's persona, notice that the gap has closed a little bit, then coming into these mid-game team fights, things should be looking good for GankStars Vega, especially when they look to contest for this first gold minion miner.
Yeah, and that should be happening fairly soon. Right now, Rekt, though, finding Whalmer in the jungle yet again. He's doing a good job of being very proactive about hunting down these players on Ardent and trying to locate them. And actually going for the invade here onto Jaja Jack. He's surviving decently well. I didn't quite catch who picked up that jungle minion, but whoa, Ace's persona, look at the damage coming in from Fuji and co. Great afterburner is going to get him right in there. GankStars picking up that first kill of the match.
Yeah, what a nice first blood coming out for GankStars Vega. They were not expecting that to happen whatsoever. Fuji used that beautiful afterburn to catch him out of position. They want to try and get this gold miner, though.
Jack, that was a bold enter the fray, right over the wall, onto the gold mine.
He gets it!
He does actually find the gold mine, though. Decent payout collected for Ardent Axiom. That said, GankStars still going to be fairly happy picking up that kill. Perhaps they can just immediately go and get that vision back. Obviously, vision is great for them right now, whilst they're trying to apply all of this pressure.
So, yeah, they lose the decent gold payout, which is very unfortunate. I think Ardent Axiom are going to be very happy with that pickup, but the fact that Ace's Persona got caught out so early on in that fight was a big problem for Ardent. I talked about how coming into these gold miners that that's where GankStars may very well be looking to fight, and they had the level advantage to keep Ardent away from that gold miner, but it wasn't quite enough. Jar Jar Jack able to get that steal away meant that still a fairly even trade between the two teams.
The thing is, whilst that trade was even, we keep seeing more and more money go into the pockets of GankStars. They are now at about slightly over 2,000 gold lead. Considering earlier on they were only about 1,000, they've found that advantage somewhere, and I think you got to look towards Wrecked and Old School and the pressure they're putting into the jungle right now as the source of that. Very, very strong plays coming out from those guys. And it's tough for Ardent Axiom. It's not as if they're not trying to control vision very well and, you know, be able to respond to GankStars. They're just too weak to at the moment. You see all these scout traps not working out for them, even though they have a good ability to see when GankStars is trying to set something up.
Yeah, it does look like they're both teams posturing around this top turret, potentially trying to steal some things away as Jar Jar Jack just sits in the back line and farms away his half of the jungle. So at the moment, though, Old School may be looking... Oh, he steals it!
Oh, nice. That GankStars are really putting all of the eggs into the jungle basket right now. And they're not just putting them in there, they're stealing them out of Ardent Axiom's basket. Very nice. Whalmer is miles out of position right now, though. He can't be this far onto the enemy side of the map. That is going to be a quick pickup for Fuji. 4 kills to 0 at the moment for GankStars. Jar Jar Jack also trying to do some invading of his own. To be honest, I think at this point, the enemy jungle is the only place he's actually going to be able to farm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You need to take some advantage somewhere. When Old School and Rect are just spending so much time in your half of the jungle, just go into the enemy jungle, do what you can, but because he's nowhere near, they may be able to pick up this tier 1 turret completely for free. Ace's Persona does not have the wave cleared to stall this one out, and they're going to lose that first turret of the game. So far, GankStars Vega has everything that they could want coming into this second game.
Yeah, and talking about everything they could want, look at the item differential between these two teams as well. We're seeing so many milestone pickups for the side of GankStars moving into this 8-minute mark. Right now, Whalmer needs to be a little bit careful, but at this point, if you're Ardent Axiom, what's the play to get you back into this one?
Well, they have the numbers advantage here. They may look to go for a fight, but Old School is so mobile. At the moment he lands a couple of those auto attacks, they may have found Aces, though.
Oh, Aces is in a tough spot. The Afterburner gets reflex blocked, though. That buys some time. Yummy Cabbage Frenzy is going to come down onto Jar Jar Jack. This is actually a very well-played fight by Ardent Axiom. They haven't found any kills, but frankly, the fact that they even survived that is impressive.
It certainly is. They managed to reach the safety of their turret, and even though that was a fantastic 3-man stun coming out from Aces, they weren't quite able to make it work, but now they're looking for the re-engage.
Yeah, Whalmer actually going in onto Old School right now, but the best target for them is probably Wrecked. Fuji, he's bought time, though. This is going to be a re-engagement from GankStars. Ace's Persona extremely low on the side. Look at the red mist coming in, doing almost nothing compared to the massive plays we saw out of Old School's Rona last game. Very nice fight for GankStars. Ardent Axiom biting off more than they can chew, taking that earlier fight win as maybe too much of a sign.
The thing is, right there, was GankStars Vega just executed the fight properly. We've talked so much about this Adagio-Rona combo that you can't really focus down the Rona because of how strong she is when paired with a Catherine and an Adagio. So what do? You focus down the Adagio. You get him out of the fight as quickly as possible, and that is exactly what they did. With the numbers advantage they then had, they turned onto Jar Jar Jack, they took him out of the game, and it was just a very easy cleanup. Once again, GankStars Vega demonstrated how experienced they are as a team and how well they're executing their composition. Very impressive play coming out from GankStars Vega in this second game.
And I feel bad for Ardent after the back of that last fight. I feel like if they'd just taken the escape and kept stalling this game out, trying to reach a later game point, they might have been able to utilize that to come back into it. But since that last fight, since the last time we've checked, we're actually sitting at almost double gold across GankStars' team right now.
Even higher than double gold.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's just absolutely immense, the advantage that they have built for themselves. And they've been taking it slow. You know, you don't see too many of these massive swings, but it's all that they've needed to do. You know, GankStars, I feel like they're really playing this game extremely smartly.
The thing is, Ardent Axiom as a team are very strategic. They're very smart. They like to come in with a plan and execute upon it. And when things don't go to plan, you have things like this.
Yeah, Yummy Catnip Frenzy coming down. Good Burst of Judgment is going to go across GankStars. And the first kill of the fight, in fact, goes over to Ardent Axiom. They might even be able to get a second one here. Rekt throws down that gauntlet, but it's not going to be enough. He falls as well. Ardent Axiom picking up the first 2 kills of the game for themselves at 11 minutes.
Ardent Axiom working their way back into the game. This time, it was Old School being a little bit too overconfident, going in for a fight that he just could not commit to. Aces gets a fantastic Burst of Judgment off that does a huge amount of damage, and because Old School is just left by himself on the front line without the support from Rekt, it was very easy to shut him down quickly, and then once they had the numbers advantage, it was a nice cleanup kill for the side of Ardent Axiom. And this is it. If you don't play around this Rona properly, then you will lose these team fights, because the Adagio-Rona combo is just so insanely strong.
It really, really is, and I think we might just be seeing the beginnings of that right now. Ardent Axiom, you saw earlier they were able to disengage a fight and actually do quite well there, and then they just won one. Things seem to be getting better and better for them. That said, GankStars are by no means out of this one. They have a tremendous gold advantage. They are going to take the gold miner back, only collecting 35 gold each, but the vision is important at this stage in the game. Ardent Axiom, I feel like they can continue this on so long as they play very passively.
Yeah, they need to just pick the right fights for them. The longer this game goes, definitely things will go in their favor as they have quite a good late scaling composition. Naturally, Old School will just get slightly tankier, but Jar Jar Jack's going towards, I believe, has picked up the Shiver Steel, will likely work towards something like a breaking point. Having that combined with the Adagio support means that she will be doing a huge amount of damage. The thing most important for me is what Ardent Axiom are thinking right now. They've just won a team fight. They've learned something valuable. And as I've already said, these guys are a very smart team. They like to come in with a specific strategy in mind and like to execute upon it. So far, things have not been going well for them. But now, once they finally win this fight and things are going their way, can they execute the rest of this game to go towards their favor? Because this is what they need. They need a slight edge. They need a lead.
I mean, sometimes things can just go to your head, right? And off the back of that earlier fight victory, you can see Ardent Axiom, I think, playing this right and just continuing to do what they did before the fight victory, because they're still behind, right? So the fact that they're just, you know, playing things very carefully, getting some good scout traps and vision down, I think is smart. Right now, GankStars are tired of waiting around, though. They're actually moving forward a bit, shoving this wave, maybe trying to find an opportunity to make something happen that Ardent Axiom do not want.
Well, they're looking to set up a potential siege. They haven't picked up either minion miner, so they're likely not going to commit to this siege. They're just trying to gain control over the jungle. Notice that the tight... The Kraken is going to be spawning in 1 minute from now, so this could be a great opportunity for GankStars to potentially pick that one up, and that would be a great way for them to look to push into the base of Ardent Axiom and really make a difference in this game, because they cannot afford to go for another negative fight like they had in that previous engagement.
Yeah, that is very, very true. At that point, you're starting to risk throwing away the lead that you've built up so carefully and so thoroughly across the rest of the game. They are going to find Jaja Jack here. The afterburn comes out. Gauntlet buys him some time, though. Jaja Jack off on the side. Fuji tries to find the kill, but look at that! He manages to jump back into his base. That is another successful disengagement by Ardent Axiom. Where is GankStar's damage gone?
Well, this is it. See, the biggest problem for them is that they just can't quite get the fights that they want. Right there, GankStars Vega really executed it perfectly, and they still maintain control over the jungle. They still have control over the gold miner, and the Kraken is going to be spawning in the next few seconds. Notice now, Old School picking himself up that Atlas Pauldron. He's going to be insanely tanky right now. Also has the Aftershock, going to be doing a decent amount of damage.
Oh, Fuji.
If GankStars do not get the correct engage, if they even slightly hesitate.
Oh, but this time they're not hesitating at all, trying to go in here for the fight. That was a very nice ultimate coming out of Catherine, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Look at the damage this time. GankStars Vega finally managed to find themselves a positive fight for the first time in the last few minutes. They are showing their gold lead, still has some weight behind it.
So GankStars decided to engage onto Jar Jar Jack right there. I was talking about earlier how they needed to play around him, and they didn't care. They just went straight onto Rona. They took him down almost immediately. Ace's persona could do nothing to provide any real support, and it was just a one-sided fight simply due to Jar Jar Jack, the main focus of the damage being deleted instantly. Very impressive from GankStars Vega. And these guys, when we talked to them yesterday, they said, when we take an inch, we take a mile. Once we have the lead, we do not let go of it. And while things were looking a little bit edgy, things were looking a little bit rough because Old School got a little bit too overconfident, Uncle Fuji said, all right, guys, let's pull things back a little bit. Let's be a little bit smarter about how we choose to play these fights. They finally get the engagement that they want, and now they have cracked the base of Ardent Axiom. Very impressive stuff from GankStars Vega. I expect them to be hanging around this Titan, as that is likely going to be the next major objective that they look for.
Yeah, I think GankStars Vega could use picking up the Kraken just to finalize their shove into the enemy base. But as we've seen, they've been playing it very slow and steady. They're trying to win this race. And as they are already 1-0 up in this game, it's potentially the last one for them. That would be a big day one win if they could 2-0 their opponents. Ardent Axiom similarly playing pretty slow because they do not want to get knocked out here.
Yeah, they definitely don't. But remember that the winner of this hang on, because Fuji has found Ardent Axiom.
Yeah, but he's going in by himself. The communication is not there for GankStars right now. There's a burst of judgment, but look at the turnaround. Ace's persona, he's trying to make something happen here, but he goes down immediately. GankStars pick up 3 kills yet again. This could be the final push of the game, Vedius.
Rex did so much work there. He got a fantastic... he didn't even use the Goltner in that fight. They came out ahead without using it. I want to give him all this credit because you saw so many AoE stuns that actually came out from Ace's persona, but because of the fantastic use of the Fountain of Renewal, of the Crucible of Rex, he kept his team alive long enough, and even though Fuji doesn't have a reflex block, he did not need it. With that Sorrow's Blade, with that breaking point, with the Shiver Steel, they just did so much damage. It was easy for them to just run through the lineup of Ardent Axiom, and what should have been a stronger composition given how great this Adagio Rona comp actually is. There was just no way they could deal with the onslaught that is Old School and Fuji.
All right, well, the Kraken has been unleashed now. This could be the final push coming in from GankStars. They've got both of the minion mines as well, I believe. Gonna have a massive threat here to the base of Ardent Axiom. The Vein Crystal turrets are still alive, so there's a last bastion for Ardent Axiom to fight at, maybe try and make something happen. GankStars fishing around here for maybe someone to get caught out. I don't think Ardent Axiom are going to overextend too much here. That said, Whalmer might be the target. Fuji tries to jump and find something. The Catnip Frenzy comes out looking wrecked with a great gauntlet on the side. Burst of Judgment goes out, but it's just not enough. GankStars Vega doing so much damage, taking none of their own. And they are in a great spot to finish this one up, guys. Taking the series 2-0 against Ardent Axiom.
What a fantastic performance coming out from GankStars. They aren't going to be taking this series 2-0 over their counterparts, Ardent Axiom, in a very dominant fashion.